So we'll call the meeting to order at 6:32, and Suzanne can hop on when she's able to make it. First order of business is to review and make any changes to the agenda. I've got two additions under old business to add. The first is a quote for the flags on Main Street that Sue brought to our attention at our April 19th meeting, I believe it was. So we could add flags for Main Street under old business as item C, and then also item 8D, we'll revisit the reopening guidance that we clarified at our last meeting, because within 24 hours of clarifying it, the state changed their guidance. So we'll tweak ours. Are there any other items to be added or removed from the agenda? All right, not hearing any. I do want to also note that tonight we're going to be having the public information hearing on the Longley Bridge tap project. Hi, Brian, I see you're joining us from D&K. Just so you know, I think we're going to schedule that to start at 7. So I think that Linda is going to be joining us then as well, Linda Blash, and a few other people. So if you want, you're welcome to hang out until then.
I'll listen in and do some emailing then.
Perfect. Yep. Great. So moving into the agenda, second item of business is the approval of minutes. First set of minutes we have to approve are the minutes of April 19th. We have a motion to approve the minutes of April 19th as written.
I'll make a motion to approve as of April 19th as written.
Great. We have a motion from Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Leanne. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of April 19th as written, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. The minutes of April 19th have been approved. Next up, we have the minutes of April 21st. Excuse me, is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 21st?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes of April 21st.
I think technically it's going to have to come from Mark or Emily.
Oh,
I'll make that motion then. Yeah.
was I not there for that? Yeah.
Yeah,
I wasn't
not that
there
one.
for
I had to go back and double check. We've had a few of them. So great. So I have a motion from Mark.
I'll second the motion.
Great. We have a second from Emily. Great. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of April 21st, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
Great, with 2 abstentions. Great. So the motion carries, the minutes are approved. Next up is the minutes of April 28th. That was a typo. It should be April 28th, not the 29th.
Yeah, one. Yeah.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of April 28th?
I'll make that motion.
Great, we have a motion from Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Leanne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I think we've got 1 abstention from Suzanne, right? Yeah, great. All right, great. The minutes have been approved. Excellent, thank you. Next up is appointments. This was in regards to a vacancy on the Center Cemetery Commission. There is a vacant seat expiring in 2022. This was something that we did not fill during the last rounds of appointments. It was brought to my attention by Charlie Purrier, who asked that we fill the vacancy. He also offered a candidate. So with that, I'll open nominations to fill the vacant cemetery commission seat for the Center Cemetery, 5-year position expiring 2022. on behalf of Charlie Purrier, or at the request of Charlie Purrier, I would like to nominate Lyndall Elkins. Are there any other nominations for the Cemetery Commission for the Center Cemetery? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Lyndall Elkins serving the remainder of a 5-year seat on the Center Cemetery Commission expiring 2022, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, and you have appointed Lyndall Elkins to the Center Cemetery Commission. Moving on, Public Works, Roads and Bridges. First item here is just the ratification of the approval of the annual financial plan and road and bridge standards. If you recall, we did this at our April 19th meeting. However, it was not formally on the agenda. So we want to go back now and ratify that decision so that it's formally made under a warned item.
So I'll make a motion to approve the V-Trans annual financial plan for the town of Montgomery and the roads and bridge standards for the town of Montgomery, or should we do them separate?
You can do the same. Yep, one motion works.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's my motion.
Great. So we have a motion from Mark to ratify the adoption of both. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Great. We have a second from Emily. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up is just a general update on road conditions. We're going to get into a discussion of hiring later on in the evening. That's going to also have some weight on a compensation discussion. We'll probably move into executive session for that portion because we're going to be discussing compensation. But in the meantime, Mark, do you want to offer an update on road conditions? And while we're at it, feel free to give an update on hiring as well.
Okay. Yeah, the roads are, getting into shape. I mean, we're starting to get quite a bit of rain, so it's kind of hampering some of their efforts, but pretty much, all the roads are passable and they're all starting to settle down pretty good now. So Billy and Mark are, slowly working at it. And we've hired Connor Pratt to come on board with the road crew. So then Billy Senior is willing to train Connor on the grader and, train him on some other stuff too. So that's going to really help us out, get going the right direction.
Yeah, very exciting to have Connor on board. So really good news on that front. So like I said, we do have a discussion tonight as far as some of the compensation, road crew compensation figures. Again, since those are going to be a discussion on adjusting compensation figures, we'll probably table that for now and pick it up at the end of the meeting, since that will be under executive session. Any formal motions regarding compensation will be done outside of executive session, but the discussions themselves regarding the employees will be had in executive session. So if there's no objection, what I'd like to do is just put a pin in items 3 and 4 and move on to buildings and grounds. Unless anybody has anything else under roads and bridges at this time. All right, not hearing anything else, we will circle back to the remaining items here and we'll head into buildings and grounds. First update, as always, is the 98 Main Street location. Still not a peep from the U.S. Postal Service. So we will continue to carry this over until the fire is hot enough under them that they want to talk to us again. Anything else under 98 Main Street? Not hearing anything, I'll move on to the public service building town office renovation RFP. So as we had talked about at our last regular meeting on the 19th, I was going to reach out to some folks in town about trying to establish a committee to get things moving on this. I've talked to a few people in town, but don't have any solid commitments yet. So I'm hoping that between now and our next meeting, we might be able to flesh this committee out a little bit more so that they can get rolling on that. I will say, if you are by the public service building anytime soon and you want to see Erin's new spacious office, she has moved into her new digs. I gotta say, I'm a little bit worried that we've created some power dynamic there, since her office is now 4 times bigger than Liz's office. And in the summertime, she has a massive window she can open at the far end of it. So anyway, if you're looking for Erin, she is now the other direction. So hope to have an update on that committee formation soon. Next up is just the Town Hall Grange. I don't know, and Mark, I don't know if you've talked to them or not, but whether they've finished the furnace repairs. I believe they have at this point. Or Genevieve, do you know if that's the case?
Well, John turned in an invoice and said he was done
Okay.
last week. So yes, I don't know if Mark knows more, but I spoke to John briefly. So.
Okay, thanks, Genevieve.
Yeah, as far as I know, they're all done. So yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Great, so that work is complete. The only other work in the building we had looked at was the lift assist elevator.
Yeah, the furnace was nice too. Yeah. I went in and looked at it. I went in and looked at the furnace and everything, the new setup, and it's really nice.
Oh, the new furnace, yeah, good.
Makes more room in the room downstairs. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So the only other work there is the lift assist work that we had accepted the bid from Access Mobility on. And to my knowledge, they have not come up to initiate that yet. Genevieve, you haven't seen any of them come in looking for a key, have you? No? Okay. I'll follow up with them tomorrow and see if they have a date.
Well, there was one more thing needed to be done there too. We'll have to talk to a carpenter, but the bottom stair broke off going down cellar, down to the basement. And so that's going to need to be replaced. It was all rotted out.
Okay.
You want me to?
Out.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get that fixed before somebody hurts himself. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, that's it for buildings and grounds, unless anybody has anything else for buildings and grounds. All right, not hearing anything. We'll move on. The last item here is FEMA. So Erin sent out an email earlier today to the board that had some information on Public Works budget as well as FEMA. We'll tackle the Public Works part of it when we get into the hiring to compensation discussion later. But as far as the FEMA portion of it goes, she did send out an email with a summary of kind of what's going on, as well as a spreadsheet, which shows the amount of money that we've received in one column and then the match on the other. So what FEMA does is they take the entire cost of the project and then they pay 75% of it. 25% of it is what we have to pay as a match. We don't have to essentially like demonstrate to them that with receipts or anything, but it will track in our books as being our match component of that. What I talked to Erin about doing is coming to the next board meeting and doing a small presentation on this so that folks can ask more questions and get a little bit more of a solid handle on kind of how this finally shook out, because by then we should have the rest of the things coming in as being received, except for the category Z component, which is personnel, which won't be more than a couple grand, I think. But all in all, this is tracking really well. Eventually, we're looking at a total reimbursement from FEMA of about $158,000. That's really good. We had budgeted 60,000 in the current fiscal year budget. So we're coming in way above our budget as far as the FEMA revenue goes. There's gonna be some swapping that I'm trying to work out with Aaron right now in terms of some of the individual numbers FEMA works with. It gets a little bit complicated because FEMA actually pays us for the time on our equipment associated with these projects. However, we don't bill that because it's our trucks and our machines. So what we're going to do is tease out those numbers from the FEMA reimbursement and basically set that aside to work as our match requirement so that everything squares up in the ledger. Again, I'm going to have Aaron come in at our next meeting and do a walkthrough of this for everybody. But for the time being, just know that we're almost at the finish line for this. And as far as the process goes, we're not coming out ahead, you know, in that, like, if that thing had never happened with that storm, we'd still be in a better place financially. But we have been able to get a lot of work done and some permanent structures like culverts and things that were supposed to be replaced anyway as part of the project. So all in all, I gotta say that the process with FEMA has been one that has been great to work with.
So I would say we are ahead in that respect because, you know, we've
Yep.
got some ditches fixed and a lot of things fixed. So that means we've gotten 52,000 so far, 52,700.
So
Is that-
currently received, we have got about $100,000 in right now. All in, we're expecting 158,000, give or take. We had to kind of, again, because FEMA pays us for things that we don't bill to ourselves, we've had to kind of work backwards a little bit and kind of tease things out. So I don't have the final numbers. We were working on this afternoon, and I don't have the final numbers for you today, but we should have them by the next meeting so that folks have a bit better understanding of kind of what the expenses associated were, what the FEMA money came back in for, what our costs were, and kind of how everything comes out at the end. So
Okay.
take a look at the spreadsheet she sent and take a look at the email as a way of kind of just prepping your brains for that. But she'll walk us through that next meeting.
Okay.
One of the things that I have talked to Erin about doing is potentially at the second meeting of every month, as she's able to come in and do a budget update. That way everybody is kind of on the same page about where we are as far as budget status for various things. And then the board can flag any kind of troublesome or worrisome items that we need to relay to anybody else. Whether they have to do with roads or any departments or things like that. So working into a good process here.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Anybody have anything else on FEMA before we move on from that? Okay, not hearing anything else. Without objection, I'm going to jump to Water Commission issues and see if we can knock a few of these off before we pivot back to the TAP project hearing. First item here is Peter Baker's water bill. Mark, do you want to give a background on what's going on with this one?
So this house is right at the red house as you're turning into the public safety building. They reside in Canada. So this winter, I guess the water pipes, the furnace failed in their house, so their water pipes bursted, and they used 112,000 gallons of water. Went through the meter. So their water bill is $849. And, you know, he called to see if we could waive some of the bill, but in the past we haven't, I mean, because that water went through the water meter. And I think what we need to do is like send out a notice in one of the bills, you know, right before winter time and say, you know, if you're not going to be in your house for a long time, we can shut the curb stop off, you know, outside the building. So then if something does happen, you know, the water won't, you know, ruin everything in the house. But I think what we've done in the past is we've given them like an extra quarter to pay the bill. So that's what I want to propose, that we, you know, we can't waive the fee, but we can give them another quarter to pay the bill with no penalties. So that's my motion to Give Peter Baker an extra quarter to pay the water bill that he has.
Great. So we've got a motion on the floor for Mark to not waive the water bill for Peter Baker's first quarter of 2021, but give him an extra quarter within which to pay the bill. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second from Leanne. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Great. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Motion carries. Next up is the Reagan Road tank power supply. So this is something we talked about in passing. I can't remember if it came up at a meeting or if it was Mark and I talking about it, but one of the issues with the Reagan Road tank is that the power seems to kind of fluctuate because right now it's operating on a solar battery. So what we had discussed was running power actually to the tank itself to avoid those situations. The concern is that when there's fluctuations in power, sometimes it leads to essentially loss of water. Our usage rates go up, but it's not billed usage. And so we're thinking that it might be the result of that tank. Any other background you want to offer, Mark?
Yeah, it's what it is a battery, solar powered battery system. And like every 4 or 5 years, we have to replace the batteries, and then we lose the comms. So then we're losing a lot of water. Then we have to babysit the tank, and it's been hard getting the batteries, and the batteries are like keep going up in price. So they're like $700 or $800. So I just wanted to explore, running power up there, because I know the fire department would like to put an antenna up there too, which is a good spot for one. So I did talk to Doug Kopaz yesterday about it. So he's going to give us like an estimate
Great.
of what it would cost to go up there with the power. So I'll try to get back to the next meeting with an estimate of what that'll cost.
Awesome. Great. That'll be good. Last item here under Water Commission issues is the River Street hydrant. Ross caught me the other day coming out of the store and informed me that the hydrant, Mark's probably aware of this, the hydrant on River Street behind the inn is not functional and needs to be replaced. Anything you want to add there, Mark?
Yeah, I did. Ross did send me a quote. The reason, those fire hydrants were put in back in the 70s. So it's hard to find parts for that brand of fire hydrant. So my feeling is we could fix it, but my feeling is we need to start replacing them, one every few years or something, so we don't have them all, broken at once. So the cost of a hydrant is like $2,500, and it'll be about $1,000 to get it installed. So around $3,500, to get a new hydrant put in. So I'd like to make a motion to replace the fire hydrant behind the inn, not to exceed $3,500.
Great. We have a motion on the floor to replace the River Street hydrant behind the inn at a cost not to exceed $3,500. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Leanne. Do we have a second from Leanne? Is there any further discussion? I guess one question I'd have for Ross, Mark, and I can ask him this too, is just if he has a list of hydrants in terms of like status, just so we can plan ahead for like, okay, what's the next one we might want to do and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've kind of got a idea in my head too, of which ones we need to prioritize, but
yeah, well, that might be something.
I think it's more that brand, that Kennedy brand, or that type of hydrant is the one we can't find the parts for, and we don't have all those hydrants aren't that tight. So
Okay.
I kind of got an idea. I'll sit down with Ross and we can kind of figure it out, you know, get a plan ahead.
Yep.
Yeah, but they were, all the rest are repaired. They did that the other day,
Great.
but
Excellent. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Thanks very much. This isn't an agenda item, but I'm just curious, Mark, do you know if they managed to finally get into the Black Lantern? Or Suzanne, maybe you know?
well, I know. Yeah, they managed to get the line hooked up today from the main line to the valve, and then, but as far as getting into the building, Morgan's going to have to find somebody else to do that. I mean, that's not part of the town's scope of the works, because that wall, we don't want to. It's not a liability. The town is responsible to the curb stop to get the line installed, and then they're responsible for getting into the building, the line. So I've talked to Morgan about it. And that's in that. So he's got to find a contractor to get the line into the building. But that, as far as today, they got it hooked up to the main line. So it's that our part is done. Yeah.
Good. All right, great. So with that, we are through Water Commission issues, and it is 2 minutes to 7. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pivot, and this next part of the meeting is going to be the Longley Bridge TAP, or Transportation Alternatives Program public information hearing. And this is in regards to the project going on Longley Bridge Road, where we're getting the stream bank erosion from the Trout River, which everybody's been aware of, hopefully aware of, especially in the last few weeks. So with that, what I'm going to, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, we lost a little bit more this last high water last couple of days.
Yep.
We lost a few more feet. So yeah.
Yep. So with that, what I'm going to do is turn it over to Brian and Linda. Linda's with Regional Planning. She's our municipal project manager, and Brian is with Du Bois King. So take it away, guys, and let me know if you need screen share capabilities or anything like that.
Okay, I'll try sharing my screen right now and I'll let you know if that's not working. Not working.
Okay, I might have to make you the host. And so all you got to do is just promise that you'll make me the host when you're done.
I think we went through the same thing back in January or February.
Yep. So you're good to go now. You should be, at least.
Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. And just for reference, can everyone see my mouse moving around?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm here tonight because per federal requirements, there needs to be a public involvement process that goes on developing these projects. This would be the second of those two meetings. The first, I believe, was held back in January or February of this year with some conceptual alternatives. For some history, is the town selected one of these alternatives, and we've progressed it to conceptual plans. And I'm just going to be going through the conceptual plans with you tonight. This is the title sheet. Just for reference, the project is currently located here where the road is closest to the Longley Bridge Road. To the east is Vermont Road 118. This is just some general notes that we put with the plans, standards used, and then some symbology that you'll see later in the plans set. This is just survey information. so that when the contractor is selected, he can lay out the improvements based on survey. So this is the selected alternative that was progressed to conceptual plans. We are proposing to put in a stone fill section to armor the embankment, as shown in this typical section. It's inside or near the existing ground line, surveyed ground line. However, the offset of it will vary. I will be showing you some cross sections later. It meanders in and out. We're pushing the river away from the road in certain locations, and I'll be sure to point those out. Up above it is some natural stormwater mitigation practices. Those would be live stakings and live fascines. So, like putting in like willows and, bundles of sticks. It would be the fascines. We have submitted conceptual plans to V-Trans for review, and additionally, since the submission, we have completed the final hydraulics analysis, and there will be one or two slight changes to the typical section, one of which is the depth of stone now down near the river. We believe during a large storm event, there's the potential for the stream to scour the material next to the stone, getting washed away. So we will be increasing the depth of the stone. The stone itself we're calling for 3-foot thickness of a type 3 stone. That is somewhere in the range of the biggest diameter being about 3 to 4 feet and smaller. And then where the stone stops is at the ordinary high water event, Q2 storm event. This is the quantity sheet. This is a list of quantities that we believe it would be necessary for the project. They've been quantified and itemized based on the most appropriate measurements, whether it be a cubic yardage, a linear foot, an inch, a ton, things like that. This is just the existing conditions. There is a wetland located to the west of the project, downstream of the project. It's a class 2 wetland. It was delineated by our wetland scientist. As it's a class 2, there is a buffer, a 50-foot buffer on it. Down here is Longley Bridge Road. You're going to see some stationing, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I may use that later for reference. This is just a continuation of the project site, just to the east or upstream. So this is our proposed improvements. The circles the circles that are connected to a bunch of lines represent the live stakes and the live fascines. Those are closer to the road. And then down near the river would be where the stone's placed. And then this basically mimics or matches as best it can the typical section that I presented earlier. There is a line style that consists of a solid line with a triangle. That would represent the cut, the project limits, the earth disturbance limits. Conversely, although not shown, it represents a cut situation. The other situation being a line with a circle, which is a fill. You'll notice we are disturbing a small percentage of a small amount of area in the wetland buffer. One of the topics we can discuss probably towards the end of this presentation is potentially extending the design of the project impacts. We thought this was a logical stopping point earlier. However, one of our staff members did right-of-way research earlier this year, went out to the site, took a couple photos and noticed the area between the wetland and the our proposed limits had failed further. So we'd like to open up a topic of discussion tonight on whether or not to extend the design downstream to the wetland area. As I mentioned previously, the V-Trans has reviewed the conceptual plans, and a couple comments that came up that we should consider tonight in discussion. One of which was potentially adding gravel to Longley Bridge Road to increase the height of the road, and or installing additional piping along the road. This came from Jim Coda out of the district. He knows this area floods all the time. He's thinking maybe the town might want to consider that because you would already have a contractor on board. These couple of items appear out of scope with the project intent, so they might not be reimbursable at the 80-20 split. However, again, you would have a contractor on board with, already being there with mobilization. This is the next sheet, just showing again the stone, the cut limits, the live stakes fascines. This is sheet 10. This would be our erosion prevention sediment control plan. Typically you'd show erosion prevention sediment control measures during this plan or proposed contours. As you can see, station 3 here where my mouse is, there's a bunch of proposed contours. So we're filling into the river in this situation here. So these are just some typical erosion prevention sediment control details that are typically added or standardized with every plan set. If they're not detailed, they're referenced. More details. And then lastly would be the cross sections. The bottom section you're seeing here, we're trying to tie into the existing ground as best we can or match existing. And then going forward or upstream, we are trying to lay back the existing ground as best we can with the stone and the live stakes and fascines. This is just 100 feet up from the starting point, 150 feet from the starting point. Starting point was 0, and we're now at station 1, so 100 feet upstream. And around station 2 to 250, we're transitioning into a fill situation. So we're actually pushing the river away from Longley Bridge Road. And as you can see here, we're pushing it well off from the surveyed existing ground line through this area, station 3 or 350. If someone wants to go look back at the plans later. And then by station 4 and 450 and 5, we're just trying to tie back into the existing ground line again. So with that, that is all I mean, I have for to present.
Great, thanks, Brian. And if you want to go back to full screen, we can open up questions and everything.
Do you want me to stop sharing or continue sharing?
That'd be great. You can stop sharing for now. If we need to go
Okay.
back and make something, we can.
Yeah.
So we want to open up discussion now. Couple points you raised, Brian. One was in some of the additional design related from Jim was raising the road, and then you mentioned pipe. Was that in reference to like a culvert under the road so that if the water came up, it would go under, or kind of like drainage tile, or what's the kind of piping?
I think he was meaning cross culvert, so adding cross culverts, so you know, during certain flood events, the water would have somewhere to go. Based on the survey, I think there's just one cross culvert in the immediate area.
Okay.
And that was shown on the plans, just to the south of our project in the wetland area.
Great.
I've just never, this is Mark Roulette. I've never seen it flood on that end of the road. It's always flooded on the other side of the farm. And I think if we put more culverts in for the water to go over, then it's going to flood out Longley's house and barn. You know, I don't see the reasoning for that part of it. I just have never seen it flood over there. I've always seen it right before the farm.
Yeah. I mean, if the river
Then
comes
down
up
below.
that high, it's gonna flood across from his house, as opposed to there.
Yeah.
Probably. So,
Yeah. So I guess we need to revisit what Jim's comments were.
yeah, we might want to talk with him directly and just make sure we understand what he's talking about, but.
Yeah.
we'll-
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the flat meadow there allows the water coming in from the east side to sort of flow across. If you build the road higher and put culverts in, that's going to be a dam, and that's going to be a bigger problem.
Mm.
I think if I remember correctly, Brian, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I think that comment from Jim Coda just came through as an actual like text comment that he typed in on those conceptual plans. We haven't had a conversation. I haven't had a conversation with him about that. Is that correct, Brian?
I don't believe I've had a follow-up conversation with him.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't think we know too much about where he was, you know, what his intent was behind that comment. I can reach out to him if you would like me to do that, Charlie, or you have, I don't know if Mark, you're in conversations with Jim regularly.
Yeah, I am. You know, I can talk to Jim about it and see what he meant by that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then Brian, you talked about additional work extending about 100 feet kind of to the west of where the current project delineation is, kind of going into that wetland area. And so, you know, first things that always come to mind are anticipated cost overruns or additional budget costs. So thinking about design costs, where would that put us given our current budget? And then construction costs, where would that put us given our current budget?
So I believe to extend approximately 100 feet all I did when coming up with this value was taking our current cost estimate, dividing it by the current length of stream bank stabilization, which was approximately 500 feet. And I came up with a per linear foot cost. So I believe the number I've come up with is around $45,000 of construction. With respect to the design fees, I believe this is still under our scope because I've in our original proposal, I believe we said we would stabilize up to approximately 1,000 feet of stream bank. So I don't think additional fees on our end is justified. With respect to the permit, I believe we had already stated by going in the buffer, it's very potential we're going to need a wetland permit. I believe we are scope to do a wetland permit, or that's what we assumed in our original proposal.
Great.
And just to review the project budget, or to remind folks who might not have the numbers all in their head, the original budget for construction in the grant application that the town submitted was approximately $275,000, and that was with contingencies. The cost opinion that Brian gave us with these conceptual plans was a price of approximately $227,418. If the town decides to extend the project the 100 feet, as we're discussing right now, for an additional $45,000, that would bring the estimate right now up to $272,418. So it's pushing right up against the budget with the contingency that the town had anticipated for this project, just to give you some context for that, for those numbers.
So if I can just say that back to you, so it sounds like even if we added the additional construction at an estimate of $45,000, we would still be just shy of the original $275,000 construction cost.
That's true.
Okay. So to that end, Brian, when do you need a yes or no on that from us? Is that something you need tonight?
Not tonight, but sometime soon. That goes right into schedule. Our next task would be submitting preliminary plans or addressing V-Trans comments. I believe we've already done that. We're just waiting to get some direction from you, submitting, and then from there, right-of-way plans. We can develop the right-of-way plans, I believe, but however, any negotiations with property owners cannot occur until after NEPA has been approved. We submitted NEPA documentation back in, I believe, January with the conceptual plans. And I believe that takes approximately 6 months to get approved. So we're talking approval July, maybe. Before that would be the most critical step.
Sorry, I heard a question from somebody, but I didn't see who that was. Oh, Highland. Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
I was just wondering, were you able to get Abe on this call?
I was not. I asked him if he could join us this evening, and he said he was going to try to, but I don't see him here. I do know that Abe has been talking with the NRCS about that stream bank, and I also asked Carissa if she'd be able to join us tonight. I don't see her as well. Carissa Stein is one of the soil cons working with Abe, and she lives here on Hill West, so knows the area pretty well. Because one thing I would want to double check is just whether or not we have a parallel process happening with the NRCS, and you know, if other federal money wants to pay for that 100 feet, then by all means, let's have them pay for it instead of us.
Yeah, and I've been reaching out to try to figure out what projects might be other projects might be in the works for Abe's land. And Carissa did say that she didn't have any projects with funding committed at this time, but they are having conversations with Abe and in, I would say, what I would call a project development process. I don't know the scope of the work or the exact area that they're looking at for that work. And then there's another project that Lindsay White has also been developing for Abe's property. Lindsay is from the Missisquoi River Basin Association, and she works for another agency too. I'm not remembering the name.
Wild and Scenic River Study Commission.
Mhm.
Wild and Scenic, yeah. And so in some email exchanges, what I learned is that Carissa at NRCS has sort of been waiting to see what Lindsay's project is going to look like before moving forward on anything else. So there's a few different things that are all kind of happening simultaneously here. And I was hoping that Abe could show up because I thought maybe he would be like the linchpin who kind of like
Yeah.
do all the different parts and pieces.
Yeah, so it sounds like before we pull the trigger on a decision tonight, we might want to try to get a meeting with Lindsay, Abe, and Carissa at some point in the next week or so to kind of put a detail on where things stand. Brian, if we were not to do that extra 100 feet and keep the project parameters as they are, would the work that we complete exacerbate the problem on Abe's land, or would it not have an impact on that? I guess I'll say that differently. Like, are we going to screw Abe if we do this and not do that under other 100 feet?
It's unprotected. I don't think you're gonna, the road is gonna wash out because of this 100 feet, but I think it's potential to, that NRCS project that occurred 10 years ago, to just continuously take a little bit as you're observing now. Just because the upstream section was not protected, that's what happened in this case. Most likely is just they did the project and the upstream did not get protected, and that's what's going on here.
So was that the NRCS program that was, what was it, 10 years ago, that where they cut off like 4 feet of the meadow and let the water flow out over it, sort of, let it expand? Because
Yes.
in my humble opinion, that was a really dumb project. That lasted 2 years, and that whole area that they scoured down about 4 feet washed out. And that took a lot of what is now Abe's land. So I think that was sanctioned by the Army Corps of Engineers. And maybe they should be asked to put some more money back into it, because that cost Abe, and at that point Archambault, a lot of land.
Yeah, that's a good point, Nikki. I guess one other question outstanding, Brian, is so the drawings and the design and everything that we've reviewed tonight, I think, are based on measurements that were taken prior to a few weeks ago when we experienced quite a significant loss of bank in that area. And I'm just curious, does the design and everything still hold, or is there any kind of remeasurements and redrafting that needs to happen now that the site has changed to some degree?
I'm presuming most of the bank that failed was in the middle section of the project area. At our upstream end, we're tying into an existing tree line. I'm assuming that those are still there. That shouldn't be an issue. The downstream side, I'm not so sure about the downstream side, but with respect to quantities and costs, this project is a waste project. By that, I mean the contractor will need to truck away material as a net production of this project. So if material is getting washed away, depending on where it is located, he's probably going to have to truck away less material. So the project could get less expensive.
Okay, but we don't have to we don't have to re-engineer everything based on that kind of a change, it sounds like. So that's good.
I think I heard from Linda that the town's considering some emergency repairs. Is that worth?
That was my next question was, are we, I mean, it seems like we're still on a construction timeline for next summer. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the interim, we're going to have to go back in there and put in some riprap as a temporary fix just to hold us through, this summer, fall, and especially next spring. And so if we do that, is that going to screw you guys up, or what's the impact?
So if you chose to put stone fill or riprap, it's common, interchangeable. I would suggest making sure it meets the same type of stone material that we meet, that we're calling for. So the V-Trans specification. Don't be putting like rounded, bank run stone in there. Because the second the contractor gets there and the resident engineer gets there, they're just gonna rip that right out. If you chose to put in, which might be more costly, would be more costly, if you put in the V-Trans specified stone, the contractor would have that at his disposal to reuse. So it'd be already be on site.
Okay, and from just a process standpoint, can we then bill back the cost of that emergency fix to the project?
I think
Linda?
I would have to pose that question to Peter Pochop. I'll ask him that. That is a great question. I don't know. Brian, have you ever worked on a project where that has happened?
I have, and I think it's likely he could say yes to some degree. But again, those kinds of questions are best left to, for them to answer or get a determination on.
Mark, do you have a question?
So if we find the material, can we run it by you what we're planning on using and before we do it, so we make sure we're using the right material. And then hopefully we can take the cost
That'd be great if we can get clarification from
Yeah.
Bill. Other questions from anybody on the call, public, board, otherwise?
Yeah, Charlie, is there a reason that didn't have somebody local just take care of that with riprap? I know there are a number of people around in the county that do that type of work. So there's a reason it just didn't have somebody do that job with riprap?
Are you asking about previously why we didn't do it? Or why I think the issue previously was that we were told we couldn't do it. As it stands now that we have a provisional green light, that's exactly what we'll do, Merle. But to Mark's point, we just want to make sure if we hire St. Andre or somebody, they use the right kind of stone.
Cost would have been, if that could have been done, just somebody would have been probably 50% less than what it is right now.
Yeah, trust me, if we had the time machine going, we could go back to the meetings that we told V-Trans that multiple times. I mean, I feel you, Merle. We've told them this is an issue for about 5 years. So
Okay.
yep. Yeah, feel you. Any other questions from anybody? Yeah, Suzanne. Can't hear you, Suzanne. I don't know if it looks like you're not muted though. Doesn't seem like your mic's working. You might need to unplug your headphones for the mic to work. I'm not sure.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. With regard to the planting that was on the drawing, I think you referred to as the fascine. If based on the blueprints that you submitted, if enough bank has washed away at this point that there's not really footing for those trees, like what's the process with that? Did you hear me?
Yes. If we were proposing for whatever reason, the storm event happens, washes away some more material, they would still be building to what we were proposing. So if there was an existing ground, we would be filling in those areas with fill material
Okay.
instead of again existing ground.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. Any other questions from anybody?
One final question I had was, does anyone have any thoughts on the orientation or the geometry of the proposed improvements? I don't know. I think Abe would be the person who would be have the most to say on the, geometry and where we're moving the stream bank. But if there's any initial impressions about what I presented, please let me know.
Yeah, from my opinion, and I've lived up here for 24 years. When I first came up here, the river went where is now the gravel bed, so totally across the river from where it is now. I would suggest that because of what the people that tried to mitigate the problem 10 years ago, it should go back at least to the beginning of where Archambault, now Abe's land, starts. Because what they did was really not very, again, my humble opinion, not very wise, because it lasted for 2 years before the whole thing just washed away. And there was probably, what, Mark, maybe 2 acres of land that got washed away from that?
Yeah, I would say at least, yeah.
So just from my opinion, that would be where where it should sort of end up. And that's a long way. I mean, that's a long way from where it is now. But, now what happens is there's a cove on Abe's land. So the water comes in and pushes up against that cove and backs up a little bit before it can make it around the corner. And I think that's maybe part of the problem. That anyway, my opinion.
The only thing I'll respond to with that is I feel like if you push the stone fill improvements away from the road further, I think that would lengthen the design.
Yeah.
I.e. the costs would go up.
Oh, I'm sure. And I'm not talking about away from the road. I'm talking about around the corner in the front of A. Barnard's land right now. Because that's just gonna, if nothing is done there, it's just gonna eat away and eat away and eat away at his land. And he's not gonna have a whole lot left.
It's a good
And again, maybe that's an issue where we go back to the people that came up with that design in the first place and said, well, it didn't work. Can you pay us back the money that you put in or that we put in to make that thing happen?
I just want to say that I hear what you're saying about the river having moved quite a bit and wanting it to potentially be put back where it used to be, but I don't believe that the Agency of Natural Resources River Management permitting would allow that to happen, because I believe that you have to stay. I think the intent is you need to keep the river where it is in its current iteration. At least that's been my experience in working with river management. They don't generally permit moving rivers back to where they used to be because the nature of rivers is to migrate. Yep. That's what they do. And I think if we were to put it back where it was, it would want to just go back to where it is now, again, in 25 years in the future. Mm-hmm. So I hear what you're saying, though.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that it goes back to where it used to be. Where it used to be is totally different where it is now. What I'm suggesting is that it goes back to where it was before they came up with the plan that was a problem. And that was 10 years ago. And that has got nothing to do with the regular flow of the river. That has to do with what they did to come up with some idea on how they could mitigate the problem of the river. But
yeah, I'm not familiar enough with that project to say, but I do know too that, over the past 10 years, the river people have been learning a lot and experimenting with different practices and kind of trying, it is sort of, it's like you try something and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and we're all kind of learning. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. It's a problem. I mean, erosion is it's part of life with rivers, they move, they, we dealt with Irene, and that was the first part of the problem. Irene started this issue. Then we had the flood last year in Halloween. And then we had the other one that caused the problem that we're dealing with now. So it goes back to Irene, and that was a FEMA project. Unfortunately, this wasn't part of the deal, but
I think the main point, Mickey, I think you're making is that we need to look beyond just the scope of what we're looking at here as far as going down Abe's land. And so all the more reason to get Abe at the table with, Carissa, Lindsay, us, to see if, where this piece of the puzzle fits in the larger picture of what we have to do to, make sure that we don't get any more loss of property there.
yeah, sure, totally.
Any other questions or comments for Brian before we wrap this up? All right, so not here.
I guess what I don't understand, Brian, is, we've lost a lot more of that riverbank. And then you've got to build that riverbank back out to where your plans are to build it back out. How is that not going to cost us more to build that back out? Is what I don't understand. Because it's only like 10 feet from the road right now. I invite you to go look at it now. I mean, every big water storm, we keep losing more. So that's what I don't understand. It's going to take more material to push that back out.
From the time it was surveyed, that's just material he's not going to have to place. But if we go to an area like this, where we're or pushing the river away quite a bit, there is going, again, if the embankment has eroded a couple feet, the contractor's gonna have to put in more material in that particular area. So it's just a question of where it's occurring.
I guess,
but in aggregate, he's trucking away approximately 1,000 yards of material. So I guess I see what you mean. If it's already gone, then I guess if you could just go look at it now and kind of see how much different it would be on your plans. I mean, just kind of just so we have a little more idea, what, going with your plans of where it's gone. I mean, that's just my concern, that it's going to cost more because we got to build it back out because we got to get it away from the road. So that's my concern. We've shut the road down to one lane because it's getting so close to the road. So,
So Brian, getting back to what you were just saying and what Mark's saying, would it not behoove the project to do something this summer and build it out so that, I know the town is thinking of doing that anyway, but shouldn't this be part of the project overall to come in and do something now this summer to sort of back it off a little bit so it doesn't get so bad that the contractor has to deal with getting more fill?
So part of the getting these federal funds for this project is going through the hoops or going through the steps that the state and federal agencies want you to go through. And again, one of the critical steps is providing NEPA that I mentioned earlier, or just documenting impacts. It's possible that potentially maybe you could do something this fall to get authorized for construction. Again, I mentioned earlier, it wouldn't be till July that you could proceed with right away. One thing that might be done is start talking to the property owner, getting them, comfortable or on board with this design, or, whatever it ends up being modified, so that could be a quick task once it begins. Once right away negotiations or is concluded, then you would go to final plans. Just another step as part of the this process, and then from there, contract plans and bidding the project.
Mhm. Would this be something that Jim Coda could mitigate? As
Not
he's
really.
the,
I mean, we're unfortunately.
not really?
Yeah, we're basically at the whim of all the federal checklists and things that they're making us do, just by the nature of the money. So
Okay,
like Brian said, there's a few things that we can try to accelerate, but I think as far as this year goes, our action is going to be doing some temporary fixes to hold it in place until we can get in there next year.
Yeah.
No.
Cool.
So I guess if I could just circle back to kind of some takeaways here. It sounds like at the town level, we need to get together Abe, Lindsay, Carissa, to kind of see where things are progressing on that front with their work, to see where it dovetails or not with our work. Linda, you were going to reach out to Mr. Pochak around some of the budget questions around temporary fixes and material bill back to the project. And then what we can do is probably start working with St. Ange to see if where we can source the correct material from, and then making plans to get some of that in there at our earliest convenience once the roads are all passable again on the Longley Bridge side.
Charlie, with respect to sole sourcing a contractor, you might want to get another determination from Peter whether you need to have a competitive bid.
So that would, so the federal processes would be applicable to the emergency work we're doing outside of the TAP project?
I don't know, but if you go ahead and
We
sole
should ask the
source,
question.
sole source,
no, I mean,
and it
I-
ends up being the other way, you might not get reimbursed.
No, I appreciate the heads up. It's just one of those typical, like, think about the most insane way of doing it, and that's the way the government wants you to do it. So, yeah, lesson learned. But thanks for flagging that.
I'll make
will-
sure I get clarification on the process that needs to be followed if there is the possibility to recoup the cost. I think if there's not the possibility to recoup the cost, then the town can use its own process, whatever that looks like, to hire a contractor. But if the intent is to try to recoup the funds through this grant funding, we may have to follow their process.
All right.
But I'll clarify that.
Great. Thanks, Linda. All right, well, anything else on this subject before we wrap it up for the evening? All right, not hearing anything else. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Linda, for joining us tonight. Got some takeaways and next steps, and so we'll follow up on those as we get more information. So Brian, just one last thing before you go, if you could just make me the host again.
I asked you this last time as well.
Yeah.
How do I go about doing that?
Go to my photo and go up in the upper right-hand corner to the
Okay.
3 dots.
Yeah.
Click the drop down and it should say make host.
Okay, that should do it.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thanks so much, Brian. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Great.
Thank you for your help.
So with that, what I'd like to do is jump to visitors now, if that's okay. I don't honestly recall kind of the order folks showed up into the meeting tonight, so I'm going to go in the order that my Hollywood Squares is on my screen. And so first off is Howard. Howard, do you have anything for visitors tonight?
I don't got anything to say.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Mary, anything for visitors tonight?
Hi. I'm just here, Sue.
Sorry, you broke up a little bit there. What was that?
I said, I'm just here to support Sue.
Oh, great. Good, good. So with that, the next in line is Sue. So Sue, take it away.
Do you want me to wait for your old business number?
If you want to tackle it right now, we can tackle it right now. Yeah.
Okay, let's tackle it right now. So I sent all the select people the estimate from JD Design for the flags, the Welcome to Montgomery flags. Did everybody get it? I hope.
Yep. And I'm going to pull it up right now, Sue. So we
Okay.
can all look at it. Well,
Okay.
say this. Everybody see that okay?
Nice.
Yep. What we did was, Justin, is we followed exactly what the Welcome to Montgomery signs look for. So it's the same bridge that's on the signs that would be on the flag. They're two-sided, so you would see it coming and going on Main Street, down in the village, or whatever. This is the price for 24 flags. We normally put up a total of 44 flags. So it's a few extra, but we had to go with the number 24. So, and they're the 24 by 36. Also, they're the fade resistant because the material that would be used is that sunbrella. You can see it on there. It's a marine acrylic fabric. And that's basically it. And you can see the quote is $23.38 plus whatever the shipping is.
Great.
And the flags, we estimate the flags would probably last for a minimum of 3 years, but because of the good fabric that they're going to be, they're not going to fade like the American flags do. So we might be able to get a few more years out of that.
Great. Just to clarify, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but in the past you talked about how you're going to stagger American flag, welcome to
Yes.
Montgomery, American
Yes.
flag.
Yes, American flag, welcome to Montgomery. The only place where there would be 4 American flags is around the village green, because that's kind of like our war memorial or whatever. So we would have the 4 American flags around the village green, but otherwise coming into town, starting at Hill West Road is the first flag. That would be a welcome to Montgomery flag. Then it would be an American flag, then welcome, that's the way we would do it.
Great. Any questions from anybody for Sue on the flags?
Yeah, I have a question. I just barely caught the image. Sorry, I had to step away for a second.
Here, hang on, let me pull it back up.
Thanks.
Sorry, there we go. Yep.
I was just wondering, like, I don't know if it'd be too much trouble, but if it was a white background instead of a black one, and the Welcome to Montgomery text was a dark color, I know that's not the same as our signs,
yeah.
but it might last longer though, as far as fading.
Yeah, with the sunbrella material that they're using, he's saying that there would be little fading, but we're trying to keep in line with what the town decided, that they want all signs and whatever to basically look the same. So that's why we followed what the signs say, or the colors on the sign, to match the flags, to match the signs.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I get the concept of that. I just, as far as longevity, I don't know how the rest of the select board would feel, or the town members, but if it wasn't a black background, is that a big inconsistency?
Yeah.
Whatever. In my experience, if you have a black object out in the sun all day long, it's going to fade much faster no matter what material, versus if you have a white sheet, So just a thought.
I think you might want to consider the dust and dirt that is collected on these flags. For one thing, if it was white, I think that might be an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, the American flags take quite a beating and they are absolutely filthy when they come down from the dust that's on the road and all of that. So, you know, I mean, I take them to the laundromat and, you know, I wash them and, you know, so we get 3 years out of three to 4 years out of the American flags, but
The same kind of timeline.
Charlie, I don't see this on the agenda. Is it on?
No, this Sue shot this over after the agenda was
Oh.
posted.
so he added it under old business, number C,
Yeah.
at the beginning of
Oh.
the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so one of my questions for Sue this evening was in terms of confirmation, ordering, production, and readiness. Is this something where if we kicked a decision on this until our next meeting, would that push production back to a point where we might not have them ready by July 4th? So that we might want to
The flags have to go up by Memorial Day, Charlie.
Memorial Day. Okay. So what's the turnaround time for these?
I
Memorial
didn't,
Days.
I didn't ask Justin, but today's May 3rd, so
Yeah.
I don't, I would think maybe 2 week. I mean, I don't know. I never asked him that.
Well,
I-
it sounds like from a practical standpoint, if we wanted everything to go up at the same time, the board would want to act on this evening.
Right.
And then we would have to come back and ratify that decision at our next meeting as it's a warrant item on the agenda.
But yeah, but I could at least get, you know, let Justin know that we're, right? I could let him know
Yeah.
that we're,
Yeah, so Merle, I saw your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was curious, what is the purpose of this? What are we going to get out of it? Why do this instead of just the American flags?
I think the purpose was to do something that was more unique to the town of Montgomery, something that, you know, bolstered community spirit, had our covered bridge and our name up along with the flags. I think that was the general idea, but Sue, feel free to fill in anything else.
no, I think that we, you know, that was exactly it. It was just building community and, you know, that's, it was just a thought.
Don't see where there was any positive aspect to it. I don't know how we're doing anything out of it at all. And
Well, I think it's kind of
the flags are the patriotic and which we've always stuck to. So
And they'll still be up. They'll still go up.
Any other questions from anybody? Comments from the board on this? If not, then I think the motion to consider would be on the quote that Sue has offered the board.
I'll make a motion to accept the quote for the flags that Sue's proposed.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the quote from JD Design for the Welcome to Montgomery flags.
We should have an amount in that motion,
Yeah,
not to exceed. Yeah.
yeah, we certainly can.
Not to exceed 3,000 maybe?
No, if you did not to exceed 2,400 or 2,500, not to exceed 2,500.
Okay, so we have a motion from Suzanne to accept the quote from JD Design for the town of Welcome to Montgomery flags not to exceed 2,400.
500, 2,500.
2,500. Okay, 2,500. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Mark. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Thanks so much, Sue.
Thank you. And so you'll bring this up at the
I will.
17th, the 7th, that's when you'll,
We will warn it on that agenda just to ratify it, but I would say you're good.
17th. But I could let Justin know to go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sue, I think it'll be really nice to stagger the American
I-
flags with
Yeah,
this.
Yeah.
I do too. I do too. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sue. Anything else for visitors, Sue?
No,
Great, thanks.
except I didn't
Uh,
understand anything about that the Longley Bridge thing, but that's all right.
Neither do us.
That's all right. I was like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
I just think we just want to put stone in the river and it's all this.
Exactly. You know, like do what needs to be done. God, let's save Abe's property.
I understand that. I understand it. That's what the scary part is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're just trying to save $275,000.
Exactly.
Main objective.
And Abe's property.
So we're gonna keep going along the line. So Merle, you're next in line for visitors. If you have anything for visitors. You can feel free to come off mute, Merle, if you've got anything for visitors. Go ahead, Merle, if you're ready.
Hard to hear. Are you saying me?
Yes, Merle. Yep.
Oh,
Ready
I
when
thought I
you are.
wasn't going to be allowed. You went from Howard to Mary, skipped right over me. You were going in line. Like,
Well, I'm sorry. I'm going in the order. I'm going in the order on my screen, and everybody's screens.
oh,
are different.
the screens are different. Oh, how
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
Okay,
So,
you're forgiven. No, I don't have really anything to. I agree
Okay.
with Mark. It doesn't. It's one of those things to haul material away from Longley Bridge Road. Is one of those, to me, doesn't make a lick of sense. I don't know what you can do about it, if you can stop it or not, but I think I agree with you, Mark. That just doesn't make any sense. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Merle. Larry, anything for visitors?
Oh, yeah, one thing real quick. I think it was your last meeting, you guys discussed having a in-person meeting, probably at the rec center or something, for informational meeting. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep, and that has been scheduled for the 15th.
My question is, somewhere I had it in my head that when we were doing a reconsideration, we had to do it exactly as we did on the original vote, which is obviously we're doing it Australian ballot and everything, but our informational meetings were done by Zoom, not by in person. And I just wondered if this was appropriate, or should we check with the Secretary of State before we put a thing on it, a stamp on it?
We did dig into this because the first question was whether or not we even had to have informational meetings to begin with.
Yeah.
And the answer that we got from looking into it was that no, informational meetings aren't actually required for the reconsideration vote. And given that, I think that they would not have to have the same format. So I think we're in an okay spot having him as an in-person meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm curious though, like, do you think holding a Zoom one as well would be beneficial?
I think you should do it the same way as it was done, as on Zoom. I think it lays a different presentation completely when you do it in person. People will be allowed to debate themselves, debate each other, where we weren't able to on Zoom at all. There was a couple people that made comments that I would have liked to have probably debated. Where's your data type question, and then use it as, well, I don't hear anybody saying anything type thing. Other than stuffing mailboxes, I just think everything should probably be done the exact same way.
Okay, so while this topic is up, let me just pull the board. So we are looking at Saturday, the 15th as being an in-person hearing at the rec center. Feedback we got.
It looks like Sue has something to say on this, and I'd like to hear what Sue has to say before before you poll us, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Sue.
Charlie, I was going to say, I kind of agree with Larry. I like the idea of the in-person info meeting for the sewer system, but I do think that to make it fair to everybody, a Zoom meeting in the evening so that, not everybody can attend a daytime meeting. So I do think a Zoom meeting would be in order as well. I mean,
Okay.
I
Thanks,
know
Sue.
it means a lot more for you guys, but I really think we should do that.
Yeah, it's not that hard. We're just gonna hit go and ring the bell and stand back and watch.
Charlie, what time would the meeting be on the 15th?
Yeah, so. Sorry, I was ringing the bell and they heard it over there. No, stop. So the meeting on the 15th is 10 a.m. Saturday the 15th. And so what I would offer is, do we want to have Zoom in the evening on the 13th?
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah.
Or the 12th, Wednesday or Thursday? Does the board have any opinion on that? If we did an evening Zoom?
Either
Yeah.
one is fine for me.
Yeah,
I
either
would be
one.
partial to Thursday.
Thursday? Anybody else have anything? Anybody? Thursday going once?
No, I think it is a good idea to
Yep.
do a Zoom too.
Thursday
Yeah.
going twice?
Both can get on.
All right, so,
I don't think you ought to have both. I should think you should have just the Zoom. That I know I'm not a select board member, but I'm sticking by my comments.
Mhm.
okay, I'll open the discussion up to, well, yeah, we haven't legally warned the meeting on the 15th yet. So we could pull the plug on it completely. Is anybody on the board thinking that we should can the 15th? I will say that if we don't have one on the 15th, there has been movement to hold one anyway. And that would be held by proponents or opponents of one or the other. The thought being that if we hold it, we can control the conversation. Not that we want to control the conversation, but we can basically ensure that the conversation is above board.
Facilitate it, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Thursday, 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, that should work.
Okay.
Okay, I will warn these both tomorrow so that they're legally posted and we'll get the word out.
Okay.
All right, with that, we're through visitors as far as I can tell. Anybody else have anything else for visitors before we move on? Not hearing anything. Let's pivot back to old business then. The first one here is the COVID-19 updates and such around this. The main update this evening is with regards to the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. So I just wanted to flag this for everybody as a point of conversation for now, but we had talked about this in the past. So one of the parts of the ARPA bill that was passed is the direct payments to communities based on population. We had said that we were thinking about a ballpark of $120,000 coming to Montgomery based on our population. I did confirm with some folks earlier this week that the county monies are going to be divvied up and go to the towns directly as well, because we don't have a county form of government. And so when the math works out, I think we're going to be looking at about $360,000 in direct payments through ARPA. The guidance of how we can use those funds should be coming out next Monday. So as soon as I have that, I'll share it with the board. But one thing just to flag is start thinking about where that money would be best invested in the community around things that for now, I'll just say, try to tie it back to COVID if you can, until we get more guidance from the feds and how we can use it. I do want to flag that so that at our next meeting, we can dig into a little bit more substantial brainstorming conversation around what those funds might be able to go towards.
I'm still sticking by my comment of we had to get the roads open so people could get their COVID shot. So I think we can justify some going to the roads.
Yeah. Right there with you.
That's great, Charlie.
So anyway, I just want to flag that as soon as the guidance comes through from the feds, we'll get it out to everybody, but just start to turn your wheels a little bit on kind of different areas that we can look to invest that money, and we'll carve out a bigger space for that conversation next time. The other COVID related item here that was added is just the reopening guidance. So if you recall, at one of our last meetings, we had talked about reopening guidance for boards in the community. We had tweaked it at the meeting on the 28th of April, and that went out to the boards the next day. The following day, the governor had a press conference and changed the whole thing on us. So the main thing here is that masks are no longer required at outdoor gatherings. So I'm going to do a quick screen share. Can everybody see this? So the change here from what was adopted at the 29th is this paragraph. So instead of having cloth masks be mandatory indoors and outdoors, this changes it to say a facial covering is recommended but not required outdoors if 6-foot distancing can be maintained between participants and how. So anyway, what I'm offering here is an amendment to our guidance to boards, just saying that basically if they meet outside, as long as distancing can be maintained, facial coverings are not required. Anybody have any questions on that? If there are no questions, then I would entertain a motion to adopt this as amended this evening so we can get it out to boards tomorrow morning first thing.
I'll make a motion to adopt the amended guidance.
Great, we have a motion to adopt the amended guidance. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, we have a second from Suzanne. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, so I will circulate that back out to the boards. I know that the Planning Commission is looking to start having in-person meetings outside. I don't know about other boards as well, but we'll get that to them. And that kind of ties in with a question that I've got for this board in terms of what's your flavor in terms of how we transition to in-person meetings. Essentially by July, I'd like to have our meetings be back in person, but between now and July, I'm open to any kind of framework for how we run that based on people's comfort level with how they're feeling, with people's vaccination schedules. So I just want to open it up to hear how folks are feeling about moving back to in-person meetings.
I'd like to go back to in person the next meeting. I mean, I think we got the guidance in line, and, you know, maybe have it at the pavilion, or I don't know if we still have to have Zoom meeting in with it or not, but you know, I'd like to get back to in person, you know, soon.
Any other, let's hear from some board members first. Other board members, any thoughts on this?
I'm okay with it. I mean, I've had my kids in school every single day all year long, and, you know, I don't know. I'm not really worried about it.
I'm working on being really, really cautious. I am at school every day, but I cannot get vaccinated right now. And if we can be outside, I'm happy to be in person outside. I am sick of Zoom as much as anybody else. So I would like to move to in person, but I'd like to do it in as safe and as distanced a way as possible.
We'll give you a megaphone and you can sit out in the field.
Great.
I'm open to it as well. I am curious, is the Zoom component going to continue like to be a parallel aspect of it, or is it just we're
so we
going
can
in person?
explore whether or not, I mean, I need to play with some of the technology to see if it's possible to do the indoor plus Zoom meetings, so that when we go back to in-person meetings inside, whether or not we can still maintain a Zoom component. I need to explore that a little bit more. If we meet outside of the rec pavilion, we can't, there's no way we can make Zoom work, just because of power and internet concerns. So I will continue to investigate the indoor component here, but it sounds like the board is moving towards in-person meetings outside as early as our next meeting. So if there's no objection to it, what I might say is, why don't we wait until we get towards when the warning is posted, like the Thursday before, and we can look at the forecast. And if the forecast for the following Monday night looks amenable to being outside, then I can just do a quick email around to pull the board on an outdoor meeting and we can schedule it for that. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Or could we look at doing it indoors at the Grange? I mean, there's a lot more room in there. And then we do have access to the internet and everything there, right? So
We
I was
do,
wondering
yeah.
about doing it there.
There is access there. So
There's a lot more space in there. Yeah.
why don't we plan on a tentative in-person meeting at our next one, and we can finalize the location as we kind of get closer and have an idea of the forecast and everything.
Okay.
Sue, yep, I see
Yeah,
you.
I just wanted to make sure you wouldn't be going back to the public safety building for the indoor, because there wouldn't be, otherwise you'd have to limit the amount of people that could attend.
Yeah.
Because you still need to have the distancing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But the Grange is a great idea, if not outside.
Mhm.
That's just my opinion. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Sue. All right, so we will tentatively look at an in-person meeting next time. I'm going to continue to explore the Zoom process. Howard, I saw your hand up. Do you have a comment or question?
We can get together sometime. I can tell you how that meeting I went to about a week and a half ago, it was an in-person and Zoom at the same time.
Yep.
That they had it set up and it worked pretty slick.
Yeah, if we can get it set up right, I think it'll work okay. I just want to make sure.
I was surprised how well it did work with an in-person and Zoom attendees.
Yep. Yeah, I think if we can get the technology right, it'll be a benefit. Certainly.
You know, Charlie, if I may add, incidentally, I'd like to see people get used to calling a town hall the town hall. It's not the Grange anymore. There's only 3 people, I believe, alive that was Grange members. That's Betsy Snyder, my wife, and myself.
Yeah.
And the Grange is done. And I just, do away with the Grange, please. It's the town hall. It's been town hall for decades. So please, let's call it the town hall.
Thank you, Merle. Yep. The town hall, formerly known as the Crescent Theater, formerly known as the Grange, formerly known as the Baptist Church? No.
No, that's the MCA.
Methodist? No. Congregational?
Congregational
Church. Looking off my denominations. Thank you, Merle, though, for that reminder. Okay, great. So with that, under old business, just a quick update on the wastewater streetscape projects. So we're continuing to advance the work we can there under the current planning dollars that we have. Just an update, we did not get the requested funding through Welch's office through the request we made. We did file a parallel request through Senator Sanders' office when that opened last week, and we expect a parallel one to open up through Leahy's office sometime soon. So probably be submitting that again through their office. We have been doing a little bit more digging into some of the larger federal grants. If folks remember back when Obama was president, there was a Tiger program. Under Trump, it was called the Build program. Under Biden, it's called the Rise program. These are essentially the big federal programs that shovel money at infrastructure projects, not related to the infrastructure bill that is currently in discussion in Congress. The Rise grants have been opened up. So I have a call tomorrow morning with Chip Sawyer, who is the town manager or the city manager in St. Albans. He's the only one around I could track down who has any real experience with the Build program. So I'm going to chat with him and Tim Smith from Franklin County Industrial Development to try to get a bead on like whether or not this is something that we would even bother applying with, given its scope and scale and potentially costs of application. So things are moving forward there. We are going to be doing some test digging on some of the disposal sites that were identified for the wastewater project in the next week or two. So that's coming. And then I did get a notice that at some point the governor might want to come up to Montgomery and visit with us and chat about the project some. And so if or when that comes to fruition, I'll let everybody know so that you can join us when that happens. I haven't heard that directly through his office. It was something his office mentioned to somebody else working on the project. So believe it when I see it, but definitely positive. You know, we're getting shout outs in his budget material. Secretary of the Agency of Natural Resources used Montgomery as an example in some of the stuff she put out last week. So you know, the state's definitely got us on their radar. So that's the only updates on those projects at this point. Any questions from anybody? All right, here and none, moving on to new business. Northwest Access TV sent us a request as we move back into in-person meetings. They were wondering if we would be okay with having a videographer attend board meetings periodically to film them. So as they've been recording our meetings here on Zoom, they'd like to start recording the in-person meetings when we hold them. I guess at this point, before we move into in-person meetings, I'll just ask the board if anybody has any thoughts, comments, concerns with that. If not, I would just extend the invitation as they're willing and able to come and record.
Yeah.
Okay, not hearing any strong feelings either
I guess
way.
I don't see too big a problem with it. I
Okay.
mean, should be fine.
Great, then I will let them know, or the individual recording the meeting tonight. Oh, there we go, thumbs up. See, the walls have ears. Awesome. So with that, we're going to move into overweight truck permits. Give me 1 second and I will pull these up and we can buzz through them. Fleet permits. We only have 2 for this evening. First one up. This is Spalding Construction. These are wood chips. Can you see that, Mark?
Yeah, that one looks good.
Looks good.
Yeah.
And then we've got Godex Excavating, 3 axles at 71,099.
Yeah, that looks good. So
Great.
I'll make a motion to approve the overweight truck permits for Spalding Construction and Got It.
Great. We have a motion to approve the overweight truck permits for Spalding and Godet. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Last up, under new business, we've got a first class, third class, and outdoor consumption permit for the inn. Is there a motion to approve the first class, third class, and outdoor consumption permit for the inn?
I'll make that motion.
Great, we have a motion from Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Leanne. Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Great. So with that, I do want to circle back just to the road crew compensation discussion. So
I had one question before we get into that. About the paving of the public safety building.
Yes.
I know we budgeted that so we really can't do anything with that till the new budget starts. July 1st, or because that's in the new budget, right?
Yes, that's in the new budget. And I did, Billy, I saw Billy Saturday and he was going to get a couple quotes from Whitcomb's on some potential other, okay.
Yeah, we talked to Whitcomb's the other day, and I think what the plan is just to take off like a foot of the material right off the top and then re-put material back in, because the material that's under there was not very good when they did pave it originally. Yep. So we might be able to look at getting local contractors to do some of the work, but but I thought we probably won't be able to do anything until after the new budget cycle, right?
Yeah, we can talk to Aaron about it, but I think we at least want to
Okay.
wait until the next tax installment comes, the final tax installment comes through.
Okay. Well, we're gonna be talking budget anyway, so we can look at the
Yeah,
numbers.
so we can layer that in. Great.
Okay,
Awesome.
okay. I just want to let you know we're working on it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Sue, did you have a question?
Yep. Mark, are you gonna contact Hungerford Paving also?
Yeah, I will. If we do it that way, then it'll be just a bid on paving it after.
Yeah.
If, if we take it up the way we're gonna do it.
So
we'll
they
get
wouldn't
some-
be able to do the other?
I don't.
They do a
think
lot of
so.
municipal properties over in Swanton and St. Albans.
Yeah, but what we're doing is we're gonna be removing like a foot layer and then we put material back in. I don't think they probably would do that. I can ask them, but
No.
we'll probably get a few paving quotes, after we get that part done. Yeah, I
Building because of the fire department, could that fall into that money, that 300 and some odd thousand that you were?
Yeah, at this point, I'm saying put any idea you have on a list. And then once we
It's
get
the fire department, yeah.
Yeah. And once we get the criteria, we can kind of filter that list out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say anything that comes to mind, pop it on a list.
I have a
Flags,
list.
Flags are COVID related.
I have a
Larry,
list.
Larry needs a new tractor.
All right, so with that, all that's left is the compensation discussion. So is there a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Great. We have a
I'll
motion from
second.
Mark, second from Leanne. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of moving into executive session, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Do we need to say why or just?
To discuss compensation, road crew compensation, employee compensation.
I just want to make sure we got that in there. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll make sure.
Thank you for approving the flags.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Sue.
Great, so we're recording again. We are back out of executive session. And so at this point, I will entertain a motion regarding the compensation of one of our highway employees.
I would make a motion to accept the compensation package discussed in executive session for our road crew.
So actually in this one, we do want to be detailed about the amount that we're talking about. We can be, because the numbers we end up with all become public record. Our discussion of it is the executive session part. So if you want, you can be deliberate about the numbers.
Oh, goodness. So the motion was to accept the rate of pay at $23 an hour.
Yep, so we have a motion. Yep, we have a motion from Emily to increase Mark Gilmet's hourly rate to $23 an hour. Mark, you're on mute.
Effective July 1st with a new budget?
Yes, that would be effective July. That can be a friendly amendment, I guess, or a clarification, but.
That's a friendly amendment, yeah.
Okay. Emily, do you accept Mark's friendly amendment?
I have a question about his friendly amendment before I accept it, because I think my understanding is that he's not going to be working July 1st because isn't he out for?
Oh, that's a good point.
So maybe this is, can I amend the amendment to
well, you can
be
reject
that it is effective when he returns from his medical leave?
I mean, we could make it effective whenever, it's just when he's going to collect it. Or we can make it effective now, and acknowledging that he's going to be out too. Mark, you're on mute, just so you know.
I would change my friendly amendment to effective, next pay period,
Okay.
since he's going to be out, for a while.
Yeah. Okay,
I
great.
love that. I accept that friendly amendment to my
Great.
motion.
So we have an amended motion to increase Mark Gilmet's rate of pay to $23 an hour effective next pay period. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great, we have a second from Leanne. Thanks so much. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you very much. Motion carries, and we will inform Aaron of that in the morning. With that, we are through the agenda, and a motion to adjourn is always in order.
I will make that motion.
I will second it.
Motion made and seconded. Great. Any further discussion? Not hearing any, we will call the question. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Well, thanks, everybody. That was a lot packed into 2 hours. So thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
evening.